Forget the terrifying drills and blinding medical lights. The absolute worst part of any clinic is the sheer, unadulterated stupidity of the patients sitting right next to you. Today, I am exposing the 55 dumbest complaints about dentists that will completely destroy your faith in humanity. We are talking about emotional support reptiles, adult tantrums over paper bibs, and people trying to pay for surgery with Instagram followers. Human entitlement hits way harder than anesthesia. 1. A guy left a scathing 1-star review because the local anesthesia worked exactly as intended. He was absolutely furious that his lip was numb for 3 hours after a major extraction. The complaint stated that the dentist ruined his romantic dinner date because he kept drooling soup all over his shirt. He demanded a full refund for the meal, dry cleaning costs, and emotional distress compensation. Imagine suing a medical professional because you lack basic soup coordination. 2. One incredibly frustrated hygienist reported a patient who thought the waiting room was a fantastic place to crush a family-sized pack of Oreos. When called back for a routine cleaning, the guy opened his mouth to reveal what looked like an abandoned coal mine. When politely asked why he ate chocolate cookies right before a dental exam, he confidently claimed he was giving the staff a worthy challenge. Do you think people like this should be banned from clinics entirely? 3. A Florida man barged into a local clinic carrying a juvenile crocodile in a duffel bag, demanding an emergency teeth whitening for his scaly friend. The receptionist nearly passed out, but the man was dead serious. When the head dentist flatly refused to put his fingers anywhere near a live prehistoric predator, the guy lost his mind. He filed a formal discrimination complaint with the state board, claiming his emotional support reptile was denied basic healthcare rights. 4. A highly bizarre grievance was filed by a jealous husband who was furious that the clinic hired an incredibly attractive male hygienist. The written complaint accused the clinic of deliberately employing handsome staff to brainwash housewives into booking unnecessary cleanings. He demanded that his wife only be treated by staff members who were objectively ugly, or else he was taking his premium dental insurance elsewhere. Imagine being that wildly insecure over plaque removal. 5. An orthodontist had to deal with a teenager whose mother decided professional braces were just a scam invented by Big Pharma. Instead, she attempted a do-it-yourself smile correction using superglue, rubber bands, and actual paper clips. When the kid's gums inevitably became a swollen disaster, the mom threatened to sue the clinic for refusing to remove the hardware for free. She genuinely believed fixing her arts and crafts project was covered under standard emergency care. 6. One 20-something dude threw a massive tantrum in the lobby because the doctor refused to give him laughing gas for a completely painless visual exam. He argued that he had a deeply stressful week at work and felt he deserved a premium relaxation experience in the chair. When politely told the gas is strictly for actual dental procedures and not for an afternoon nap, he accused the staff of ruining his self-care routine. He stormed out and left a furious review about their terrible hospitality. 7. A completely exasperated dentist shared a story about a wellness influencer who permanently destroyed her enamel. She bragged about ditching toxic commercial toothpaste and exclusively brushing with raw lemon juice mixed with coarse sea salt. When the doctor gently explained she was essentially acid washing her own teeth into nothingness, she filed a formal grievance. Her complaint stated the dentist was simply jealous of her holistic lifestyle and natural glowing aura. 8. An absolutely unhinged mother caused a massive scene at the checkout counter after her son had a baby tooth extracted. She aggressively demanded that the front desk hand over a crisp $5 bill, claiming the clinic was legally obligated to act as the tooth fairy since they physically kept the tooth. When the receptionist awkwardly explained that medical waste disposal does not come with a cash reward, the mom threatened to call the cops for petty theft. 9. A veteran hygienist was deeply traumatized by a woman who refused to use standard string floss because she claimed it was bad for the environment. Her brilliant sustainable alternative was plucking strands of her own long hair right there in the chair to clean between her incisors. The staff had to kindly explain that using unsterilized human hair is incredibly unsanitary and frankly disgusting. She reported them to management for suppressing her eco-friendly innovations. 10. We have all heard bad waiting room music, but one grumpy senior citizen took it to a whole new level. He filed a 3-page typed complaint because the clinic was playing upbeat acoustic pop music instead of absolute silence. He argued that going to the dentist is a solemn, miserable experience and playing happy music is incredibly disrespectful to the pain of the patients. Honestly, do you think clinics should just embrace the misery and play funeral dirges instead? 11. A highly paranoid guy filed a grievance claiming his dentist secretly planted a cavity in his mouth while he was blinking. He aggressively argued that his teeth were completely perfect before he walked into the clinic, entirely ignoring the fact that he drinks 6 cans of sugary soda a day. He demanded the state board investigate the practice for secretly drilling microscopic holes into healthy molars just to hit a monthly sales quota. Imagine actually believing your doctor is a secret agent of tooth decay. 12. One totally exhausted periodontist reported a fully grown adult man who flat out refused to remove a cheap plastic vampire grill from his mouth. The patient firmly insisted that the Halloween fangs were now a permanent part of his lifestyle brand and demanded the hygienist scale and polish the fake plastic teeth. When the doctor calmly explained that professional metal tools would instantly shatter the cheap plastic, the guy threw a massive tantrum about his personal expression being medically suppressed. 13. A young aspiring influencer left a furious 0-star review because the heavy protective X-ray apron wrinkled her designer silk blouse. She explicitly warned the assistant that her outfit was carefully curated for a viral video shoot happening right after the appointment. When told the lead shield was mandatory to prevent radiation exposure, she claimed the clinic was actively trying to sabotage her social media career. Do you think clinics should have an exclusive vanity lane just for people like this? 14. You will not believe the audacity of a patient who brought his own rusty pliers in a greasy paper bag. He loudly announced to the entire waiting room that he did not trust the fancy sterilized equipment and wanted the doctor to use his garage tools for a simple extraction. The dentist obviously refused to use tetanus-coated hardware on human gums, prompting the man to complain that modern medicine is just a massive scam. He walked out demanding a refund for an appointment he never even paid for. 15. A completely unhinged review was written by a woman who was denied the right to take the saliva suction tube home as a souvenir. She genuinely thought the little plastic hook was the most brilliant invention ever and wanted to use it as a reusable straw for her iced coffees. When the staff explained that taking contaminated medical waste out of the building is a massive health code violation, she accused them of being incredibly greedy and hoarding all the best kitchen gadgets for themselves. 16. An entire dental office was sent into sheer chaos when a patient tried to aggressively negotiate his final bill by doing unsolicited handiwork. Without asking a single staff member, he marched into the clinic bathroom with a heavy wrench and attempted to fix a perfectly fine sink to offset the cost of his new porcelain crown. He ended up bursting a main water pipe, flooding the entire hallway in minutes, and then had the absolute nerve to actually try and bill the dentist for his emergency plumbing labor. 17. A very demanding patient formally complained because the clinic ceiling did not have a flat-screen television playing his favorite anime series. He claimed that staring at a blank white ceiling during a standard cleaning caused him severe visual deprivation and extreme emotional boredom. He actually requested that the clinic reimburse him for his monthly streaming service subscription as compensation for the immense trauma he endured. Would you honestly have the patience to politely deal with this level of entitlement? 18. One absolutely bewildered oral surgeon had to pause a complex root canal because the patient demanded to FaceTime his mother mid-drill. The guy wanted his mom to digitally supervise the procedure to make sure the doctor was not cutting corners. When the surgeon politely requested to put the phone away to maintain a sterile field, the patient filed a grievance citing a lack of family transparency. He genuinely believed his mother holding a tablet knew more about nerve endings than a licensed medical professional. 19. A highly sophisticated coffee snob wrote a massive complaint regarding the flavor profile of the polishing paste used during his visit. He was absolutely outraged that the standard mint flavor was not artisanal or sugar-free, claiming it completely ruined the aftertaste of his expensive morning espresso. He aggressively demanded that the clinic start offering organic vanilla bean or matcha-flavored polish, threatening to report them to the health department for subjecting his premium palate to generic toothpaste. 20. A local clinic was genuinely threatened with a massive lawsuit because a patient claimed her brand new veneers were entirely too bright. The bizarre part is that she loved the results in the mirror, but she was furiously suing because her golden retriever did not recognize her sparkling new smile and started barking at her in the kitchen. She blamed the dentist for ruining her relationship with her dog by making her teeth look excessively wealthy. Honestly, do people like this even hear the words coming out of their own mouths? 21. A highly creative patient left a furious rant online because the oral surgeon threw away her severely impacted wisdom teeth. She had meticulously planned to drill tiny holes into the molars and sell them as bespoke bohemian earrings at a local weekend craft fair. When she learned her biohazardous material was incinerated following standard medical protocols, she accused the clinic of ruthlessly destroying her small business inventory. Would you ever wear a necklace made out of a complete stranger's calcium deposits? 22. One absolutely fragile guy filed a formal grievance because the hygienist placed a standard protective paper bib around his neck. He aggressively claimed that wearing a bib completely undermined his alpha male status and humiliated him in front of the female dental assistants. He demanded the clinic invest in tactical camouflage-colored chest armor for male patients to protect their dignity during a routine plaque scraping. Imagine being so deeply insecure that a tiny paper towel destroys your entire tough guy persona. 23. A totally exhausted clinic manager reported a man who brought an entire hot rotisserie chicken into the waiting lobby. He sat right next to the magazine rack and started aggressively tearing the bird apart with his bare hands just minutes before his scheduled deep cleaning. When the dentist politely asked him to rinse his mouth because his teeth were absolutely coated in greasy poultry, the guy accused the staff of massive fat shaming. Do you think public snacking should be legally banned in medical facilities? 24. You have to hear about the deeply spiritual woman who threatened to sue her dentist for misdiagnosing 3 massive cavities. She fiercely argued that the X-rays were completely fabricated because her personal psychic recently performed an energy reading and guaranteed her aura was entirely cavity-free. She demanded the clinic cover the cost of her expensive crystal healing sessions to fix the negative energy the drill supposedly injected into her jawline. It is genuinely terrifying that these people walk among us every single day. 25. A highly disgusted hygienist shared an unforgettable story about a patient who threw a screaming fit over the little saliva suction tube. While thoroughly cleaning the back molars, the device accidentally sucked up a massive piece of beef jerky lodged deep between 2 teeth. The patient became absolutely livid, claiming he was purposely saving that specific piece of meat for a mid-afternoon snack, and the clinic basically stole his personal property. He genuinely demanded they dig through the disgusting biohazard trap to retrieve his soggy appetizer. 26. An entire pediatric dental office was sent into a massive panic when a fully grown adult father decided to put on heavy noise, canceling headphones, and loudly sing Italian opera during his root canal. He completely ignored the frantic hand gestures of the dental team, terrifying all the little kids in the adjacent rooms who thought someone was being actively tortured. When the doctor finally tapped his shoulder to make him stop, the man filed a formal complaint about his artistic flow being rudely interrupted by medical science. 27. We have already talked about the tooth fairy, but one incredibly angry grandfather took it a massive step further by complaining about national economic inflation. He aggressively yelled at the receptionist because his grandson only found $2 under his pillow after a brutal extraction, claiming the clinic should definitely be supplementing the payout to match the current cost of living. He honestly wanted the head dentist to write a formal apology letter to a 7-year-old boy explaining why the magical fairy is broke. 28. A completely bizarre grievance was filed against a perfectly normal hygienist because her standard sterile latex gloves tasted entirely too much like regular rubber. The wildly entitled patient argued that if he is paying premium insurance prices, the medical staff should absolutely be required to wear strawberry or watermelon-flavored gloves during the oral exam. He claimed the generic hospital taste completely ruined his entire morning and threatened to leave a terrible review unless they immediately ordered a custom fruit-scented wardrobe. 29. A local dentist had to call building security on a lifestyle micro-influencer who literally tried to pay for a massive cosmetic reconstruction using only Instagram exposure. This incredibly delusional guy had exactly 400 followers, mostly spam bots, but he aggressively insisted that a single shoutout on his page would double the clinic revenue overnight. When the front desk handed him an actual financial invoice instead, he threw a massive temper tantrum and accused them of completely hating modern digital entrepreneurship. Would you ever accept fake internet points as actual legal tender? 30. One highly frustrated orthodontist reported a teenage girl who showed up to her routine braces adjustment smelling like an entire Italian restaurant kitchen. Her heavily misguided mother made her violently brush her teeth with freshly crushed raw garlic paste right before the appointment to naturally ward off seasonal viruses. The smell was so incredibly toxic that it physically burned the eyes of the poor assistant trying to change the tiny rubber bands. The mother actually filed a massive complaint when the clinic kindly asked them to stick to standard mint toothpaste. 31. A totally delusional influencer filed a massive state board complaint because the cosmetic dentist refused to literally Photoshop her smile in real life. She brought in a heavily filtered social media selfie and aggressively demanded that her actual physical teeth be instantly blurred out and reshaped just like the digital photo. When the doctor gently explained that human anatomy does not work like a smartphone application, she threw a furious tantrum about his severe lack of modern technological skills. 32. One incredibly stressed hygienist reported a guy who smuggled a live parrot into the clinic hidden under a giant winter coat. The problem was not just the bird, but the fact that the animal perfectly mimicked the high-pitched whine of a dental drill. The entire office was sent into a total panic attack because they kept hearing ghost drills coming from the waiting room. He actually got mad when asked to leave, claiming his feathered friend was just providing free ambient background noise. 33. You will absolutely lose your mind over the woman who tried to use a heavily expired car wash coupon to pay for a complex root canal. She confidently slammed a wrinkly piece of paper on the reception desk and argued that cleaning a car is basically the exact same physical labor as cleaning human molars. When the manager refused to accept a $10 discount for a premium wax and tire shine, she aggressively accused the entire medical staff of running a massive financial scam. Do you think people like this ever feel any real embarrassment? 34. An utterly exhausted orthodontist had to deal with a grown man who brought his own homemade dental impressions crafted entirely out of bright blue Play-Doh. He aggressively demanded that the clinic use his squishy childhood toy mold to manufacture a set of permanent invisible aligners. The doctor had to hold back laughter while explaining that salty children's clay is not exactly an approved medical material. He angrily walked out, threatening to just bake the clay in his oven and fix his own overbite. 35. A highly demanding luxury spa enthusiast left a brutal 1-star review because the standard mechanical dental chair did not feature a heated shiatsu massage function. She complained that lying totally flat for a 40-minute plaque scraping caused her severe spiritual stiffness. She completely ignored the fact that she was at a sterile medical facility and fiercely demanded a full cash refund for the terrible hospitality. She honestly believed every single surgical procedure should automatically include soothing hot stones and fresh cucumber water. 36. Imagine the sheer panic of an oral surgeon when a patient purposely swallowed a brand new temporary porcelain crown right in the middle of the fitting. The guy casually gulped it down with a cup of rinse water and proudly announced he thought it was a complimentary calcium vitamin pill provided by the clinic. When he realized his massive mistake, he had the absolute audacity to demand a free replacement crown because the doctor did not explicitly warn him not to eat the hardware. Would you make him pay full price twice? 37. A deeply offended middle-aged man filed a massive written grievance because the tiny angled dental mirror supposedly made his nose look entirely too big. He literally snatched the sterilized tool out of the doctor's hand, stared at his own reflection, and accused the clinic of buying funhouse mirrors to intentionally lower patient self-esteem. The poor dentist had to pause a critical procedure and spend 20 agonizing minutes explaining the basic laws of convex optical reflections just to calm the wildly insecure guy down. He even threatened to sue for emotional damage over his distorted nostrils. 38. One completely bewildered front desk worker had to call the police on a guy who tried to steal the massive plastic display toothbrush from the lobby. He aggressively argued that because he was a loyal premium patient for 3 whole months, he was legally entitled to take the 3-foot-tall promotional prop home for his personal shower. He was genuinely ready to throw heavy punches at the local security guard over a giant piece of useless hollow plastic that did not even have real bristles. 39. An incredibly vain patient filed a furious complaint claiming the bright overhead examination light gave her a severe facial sunburn. She aggressively marched up to the front desk after a 20-minute cleaning and demanded the clinic pay for her ruined spray tan. When the doctor politely explained that standard medical lights do not produce any ultraviolet radiation, she loudly accused him of gaslighting her sensitive skin. She actually threatened to call the local news to expose the clinic for secretly running an illegal indoor tanning salon. 40. A severely misguided patient furiously complained to the clinic manager because his newly prescribed antibiotics did not instantly cure his terrible breath. The tragic plot twist was that the man was aggressively chewing raw tobacco in the waiting room right before complaining about the lingering smell. He literally spit brown juice into the lobby trash can while screaming that modern medicine was failing him. He genuinely expected a magical little pill to completely override decades of terrible personal hygiene choices without putting in any actual daily effort. 41. A completely baffled oral surgeon was handed a written complaint from a patient who brought his actual psychic to a wisdom teeth removal. He seriously demanded the psychic stand right over the chair to energetically align his bleeding jaw chakra during the surgical extraction. When the doctor politely asked the woman to step out of the sterile field, the patient actually filed a grievance, stating his spiritual rights were completely violated. Do you really believe these people possess any real-world common sense? 42. One totally exhausted hygienist had to politely decline an aggressive bribe from a guy who desperately wanted to keep his scraped-off plaque. He brought in a tiny glass vial and offered $20 if she carefully collected the yellow tartar, so he could study it under a microscope at home. She gently explained that giving a patient a jar of pure bacteria was an absolute health code violation. He actually left a terrible review claiming the clinic was suppressing his natural right to independent scientific research. 43. An incredibly furious teenager wrote a massive letter of complaint because the tiny rubber bands on his braces didn't match his high school football team colors. He confidently argued that the standard gray bands were destroying his social life and single-handedly causing a severe drop in his athletic performance. The poor orthodontist had to spend half an hour explaining that they simply did not manufacture the tiny elastics in neon metallic camouflage. Imagine suing a doctor for simply ruining your totally radical teenage aesthetic. 44. You have to hear about the absolutely unhinged grandmother who called the police on her local dentist for illegal digital surveillance. She was completely convinced that the tiny mirror on the metal stick was actually a micro camera secretly broadcasting her cavities directly to the dark web. She furiously demanded the poor assistant hand over the tiny tool so she could smash it with a heavy rock right in the waiting room. Would you genuinely have the absolute patience to deal with this massive level of sheer paranoia? 45. A deeply frustrated clinic manager reported a fully grown man who tried to legally adopt the heavy lead X-ray apron as a security blanket. He aggressively refused to take the protective shield off after his appointment and actually sprinted straight into the busy lobby while still wearing the heavy metal vest. He loudly claimed it cured his severe anxiety and physically fought the receptionist, who politely asked him to return the medical equipment. He actually called a lawyer to legally argue his emotional attachment to lead. 46. An entire dental office was sent into a massive panic when a guy aggressively started eating raw garlic cloves right before his deep root scaling. He confidently told the horrified hygienist that the strong fumes would naturally numb his sensitive gums without needing any dangerous chemical injections. The smell instantly filled the small room, and the assistant actually had to wear 2 protective masks just to stop her eyes from watering. He filed a formal state grievance when she refused to literally torture her own nose any further. 47. A wildly confident luxury blogger filed a massive complaint against a perfectly normal clinic because the disposable water cup was not real crystal. She actually claimed that drinking standard filtered tap water from a tiny pink paper cup was deeply insulting to her incredibly high social status. She demanded the head dentist personally apologize and order a custom set of diamond-encrusted goblets just for her future cleanings. How completely detached from reality do you really have to be to complain about free medical water cups? 48. One absolutely stunned front desk worker was aggressively screamed at by a woman who thought standard dental floss was physically cutting off the blood supply to her brain. She honestly argued that every time she pulled the tiny string tight between her molars, she instantly lost a huge chunk of her long-term memory. She furiously blamed the entire dental industry for her terrible grades in college and demanded total compensation for 30 years of lost intelligence. Would you even know how to accurately respond to that logic? 49. An incredibly cheap patient brought a massive pile of dirty laundry into the waiting room and aggressively plugged his own personal iron into the clinic wall socket. He confidently told the terrified receptionist that since he was paying a massive premium for a cavity filling, he was entirely entitled to use their free electricity to press his dress shirts. He actually filed a massive complaint about their terrible hospitality when the security guard politely unplugged the hot iron. Imagine actually treating a professional medical office like a cheap local laundromat. 50. A heavily caffeinated college student wrote a furious online rant about a local orthodontist who completely refused to install a permanent metal bottle opener onto his bottom teeth. He aggressively argued that a tiny metal hook attached to his molar would make him an absolute legend at weekend frat parties. The doctor carefully explained that ripping metal bottle caps off with human bone structure would instantly shatter his jaw into 1,000,000 tiny pieces. The absolute pure delusion required to even ask that question is genuinely astounding. 51. A deeply offended patient left a highly dramatic review because the dentist politely suggested she start flossing her back molars. She viewed this standard medical advice as a severe personal attack on her daily time management skills. She aggressively argued that a busy modern woman simply does not have 40 seconds to spare on a tiny string, accusing the clinic of being completely out of touch with corporate reality. Do you think doctors should just let people rot their teeth to avoid hurting their sensitive feelings? 52. One absolutely bewildered receptionist had to handle a furious guy who brought his own acoustic guitar into the exam room. He heavily insisted on playing a live romantic ballad for the hygienist while she was actively trying to scrape his heavy plaque. When the head doctor respectfully asked him to put the instrument away so they could actually access his mouth, he filed a formal grievance about medical professionals crushing the local art scene. Imagine trying to serenade a stranger while literally spitting blood into a tiny sink. 53. An incredibly angry teenager filed a massive complaint against her orthodontist because her new clear aligners did not instantly make her teeth glow in the dark. She was absolutely convinced by a fake viral video that premium dental plastic doubles as a built-in neon nightlight for parties. When the doctor gently explained that standard medical-grade resin does not contain toxic radioactive materials, she aggressively demanded a full cash refund for false advertising. Would you ever trust a random internet rumor over a licensed medical expert? 54. A wildly frustrated dentist reported a grown man who called the emergency after hours line at 3 in the morning just to aggressively tap his teeth with a metal soup spoon over the phone. He genuinely expected the doctor to perfectly diagnose his complex root canal issue, purely based on the acoustic sound of the metallic clicking. When the clinic refused to prescribe heavy painkillers without a physical exam, he loudly accused them of running a massive medical scam. How do people like this even manage to operate a modern smartphone? 55. A completely unhinged local woman threatened to sue an oral surgeon because she accidentally bit her own tongue while eating a massive steak, hours after a numbing injection. She fiercely argued that the clinic was legally responsible for chewing her food for her until the heavy anesthesia fully wore off. She actually demanded the doctor personally pay for the expensive ruined dinner and compensate her for the severe emotional trauma of her own clumsy jaw movements. The sheer entitlement of the general public never ceases to amaze me. We have officially survived the absolute peak of dental stupidity. From emotional support reptiles to full-grown adults throwing tantrums over paper bibs, it is a total miracle these professionals have not all quit their jobs yet. Now, I have to ask you a very serious question. If you were running a medical clinic, which one of these wildly entitled patients would you physically throw out the front door first? Drop your absolute worst waiting room stories in the comments right now. Hit that like button, subscribe for more daily insanity, and I will see you in the next one.